Jimmy G has officially been ruled out for Sunday's game when the Bears face off against the Las Vegas Raiders. We're going to talk about how the Bears can take advantage of that, some of the key matchups to look out for in that game, and the Bears are reportedly the front runners to land Chase Young. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, holding it down for the channel. Make sure you guys are following the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. And first up, we want to talk about Jimmy G now officially being ruled out as the Raiders and the Bears face off this upcoming Sunday, and why, especially with the Bears trying to get back on track, things like that. That's a big missing, part for the Raiders. Now, it depends on how you look at it. Jimmy G isn't like an amazing quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but, that does take something off the board for the Raiders. And considering the Bears have not sustained a consistent level of play, for weeks on end, them missing now, Jimmy G takes it. It gives the Bears some advantage, theoretically. Now, the Bears are also more than likely going to be going into that matchup with their backup quarterback and Tyson Bagent as well playing. So it's going to be the battle of the backups. And a lot of Bears fans are really key looking at how Tyson Bagent is able to perform in this game. And so one of the biggest things is that, Bobby and C-Dub dropped an episode on it yesterday, is that, Tyson Bagent using this week to really, build the chemistry with the players where he can, see how Luke Getsy changes or makes any kind of differences in that play calling because of having a quarterback like Tyson Bagent. And like I've said before, I've said it over on Bleacher Report, I've said it here, you're really looking at this game, both the people who are for Justin Fields or against Justin Fields are really looking at this game to either strengthen or weaken their argument for that, right? If Tyson Bagent steps in and looks extremely good in this same system, that, of course, for the people who think it's time for the Bears to move on from Justin Fields, is going to give them more validity to their argument. If Bagent steps in and looks pretty much the same as what Justin Fields has looked like, it's going to add strength to that one as well. Like, the doubt around Justin Fields, I've, gone on record and said I don't necessarily 100% agree with. I'm not the fact that there shouldn't be some doubt in how he needs to evolve as a quarterback, because there absolutely should. And I apologize, y'all. Losing my voice. His sickness is a bitch right now. But even with that said, there's still, things with Justin Fields that, he needs to improve on absolutely as a quarterback. But there are absolutely some things with the system, offensive line, and things like that to look at as well. So, this is going to be a big game. That's a big talking point for the Bears community, probably the whole next week afterwards, no matter how it goes, right? So, that's something to look at. Now, there are some other key matchups for the Chicago Bears in this game against the Las Vegas Raiders, and one of them specifically is going to be Darnell Wright, who's more than likely going to be going up against Max Crosby. Now, this is a move that, listen, Max Crosby is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL this season, right? He leads the NFL in pressures created so far this season, and so him going up against Darnell Wright, the rookie that's shown a lot of promise so far this season. No, things haven't been perfect. He's gone through the rookie mistakes that you typically face. But when you look at Wright, he's gone off against players like Montez Sweat, Danielle Hunter, right? He's gone over big matchups this season. And so this is another one for Darnell Wright to show, if he's to continue to show, because I'm not going to say if, he's shown that he's going to be a major part of this offensive line going forward into the future. And so, listen, when you look at the ferocity that Max Crosby rushes with, it's going to be a big test and possibly a long night for Darnell Wright. Maybe another one of those trial through fires for a rookie that we see typically coming up. The next one that you have to see is that Tyree Wilson going against Larry Borom. And Larry Borom, who's been up and down, probably, I think a lot of Bears fans would probably say more down recently than up. But, Larry Borom being in there at that left tackle position, I think it's going to be a big matchup for him as well. So, listen, it's the Bears' offensive line, and Tyson Bagent has stepped into a situation where, listen, that O-line is going to be tested all day long. And so, listen, Bagent is getting in trial by fire himself as an undrafted rookie in this game, and we'll see how they fare. But that offensive line overall versus the Oakland Raiders defensive line is something to watch this whole entire game. How much pressure do they put on Tyson Bagent? How much time does the offensive line able to create? How much are they able to protect it? Or do we see another 5-sack night on a Chicago Bears quarterback because of that offensive line? So that's definitely something that you want to watch out for. You want to watch out for that matchup and to see how it comes, right? And also something to look at as well. Since Chase Claypool's went away, Tyler Scott has been utilized more and more and more in the Chicago Bears offense. And, coming into the season and even, in last game when Bajan was out there, he targeted Tyler Scott more than any other wide receiver. And that's because when you look at, they've played and practiced together, right? They've been the ones that have probably Bajan has thrown Tyler Scott even more passes than what Justin Fields has in practice in some ways, considering they're both on that second line. So the chemistry between those guys is something to watch, as well as the Raiders secondary isn't amazing, right? But, we've seen the Bears, get abused by less, especially if that front line is not able to hold up the the pocket and give Tyson Bagent a clean pocket. But be on the lookout for Tyler Scott to potentially have a big night, at least be targeted pretty heavily for the Chicago Bears in that. Now, moving on from the game, which we'll be previewing the game on Sunday morning, so I don't want to dig into that too much here. But one of the things as well, we know that the trade deadline is about 2 weeks away, and the Bears have now been listed as the betting favorites to land Chase Young. Now, this is a guy who many Bears fans talked about in the offseason. We know that the Commanders declined his fifth-year option, so he's on the last year of his rookie contract. And the Commanders could very well be looking to move him now and get something back, no matter what that is, to be able to get something back of value for him. Now, the thing that Ryan Poles, I think, would have to weigh is that, do you want to wait and take your chance at getting him in free agency, which the Bears will have the second most cap space in the NFL or projected to next season? So that gives them a considerable spending amount to go after free agents with, while the Chicago Bears may very well look to, hold on to their assets, because they're going to need to fill a lot of holes, right? They got a lot of things that, that looking at how this season has gone, that they may have to do. And so, especially if Ryan Poles is going to make a change at coach, which I think a lot of us do expect now, is for Matt Eberflus and Luke Getsy probably both to be let go by the end of the season, and let's move on to maybe an offensive-minded head coach. And because of that, we may see Ryan Poles want to safeguard some assets, because if a new head coach comes in, you may need to move some pieces or things like that, right? Or maybe bring in some players that fit that offensive coordinator scheme better, which if it ends up being a coach like Eric Bieniemy, he's going to make that scheme based off the talent that we have there. So, it just depends on the mindset, right? If the Chicago Bears go into this trade deadline looking to be buyers or sellers, right? Or are they in acquisition mode, right? Draft asset acquisition mode, where they're trading their guys out and looking to get some more draft assets back to really stack that deck for them in next year's draft. So that could be something that the Bears could also be looking to do. But Chase Young would be one of those players that is high on that list, in my opinion, as far as players that may be worth giving up some assets in this upcoming draft to bring in. Now, it really depends on what the Bears look at and what they project their picks to be, because Jared Verse is also going to be in that. But the way that I look at it is this: if you make a move for Chase Young and you're still in a position to get somebody like a Jared Verse in the draft, you go get both of them, right? You, at that point, you don't have to worry about your defensive end for a while there. And Chase Young's still only 24 years old. Yes, the biggest thing with him is his injury concerns, which Chase Young, since his rookie year, he played 15 games in his rookie year. He has missed a total of 27 games since then, right? And so that's a huge amount of games missed by Chase Young. And so that injury concern is probably always going to be there a little bit. And that's why I more so lean towards the aspect of maybe just wait it out till free agency. Maybe just wait it out to free agency, depending on what that package is that the Commanders want back for Chase Young. Because if you can snag him in free agency without giving up anything, right? And then, like I said, Chase Young's starting to answer those health concerns, right? Starting to answer that, where those are maybe going away, not completely, and I don't think they'll go away completely until next season to see how much he plays next season. But that's a risk versus reward that the Bears front office really has to weigh if they're going to make a move for a player like Chase Young, because if you do end up giving up a second or third or whatever that is, and then Chase Young ends up out, then you're right back in kind of the Chase Claypool situation, where Claypool is more so just his performance. But again, I think Ryan Poles may have to evaluate that as well and say, listen, I gave up a 32nd overall pick for a player that gave us nothing. And if Ryan Poles, that's in the back of his mind, we may very well see him kind of be a little bit more reserved and what he tries to do out there at the trade market this upcoming season. So that's just something to look at. Again, not necessarily saying that the Bears won't make a move or they won't be buyers, they won't be sellers. It's, to be honest with you, I really don't have a good firm grasp on what it may be that Ryan Poles is looking to do at this trade deadline. But, you know, you never know until you know, right? And so we'll end up seeing with that. But then you also have to ask yourself, what are some players that could be on the block, right? We've already heard about Roschon. We've heard about Eddie Jackson. Those make sense. As we talked about, like Tyler Scott being utilized a little bit more, does that make Darnell Mooney expendable, right? And they don't want to get into those contract negotiations and then to see what they can get back for Mooney out on the open market, right? Yannick Ngakoue, that's another player that I think you should. He was a one-year deal. I don't think that they're going to bring him back by any stretch of the imagination, no matter how he finishes this season. He's another player that the Bears could listen to see what assets they can get back for him. And then, you know, I don't think you're going to get anything back for like a Cody Whitehair. I know a lot of people are like, well, let's send Cody out there. Let's send Lucas Patrick out. But with their performance, I really don't think you're going to get much back for guys like that. Now, one of the things that you could look at is Andrew Billings, right? And Billings has been a solid value signing, in my opinion, for the Chicago Bears. Has it been perfect? No. But when you look at him, 28 years old, he has years left, hopefully in his prime. You have two younger defensive tackles coming up as well. And the Bears could look to take advantage of Billings being on the roster to see what they can get back draft pick-wise, and then go ahead. The rest of the season may be a loss anyway to see what you can get back and let those guys go through the fire of the rest of the season starting. So let me know what you guys think on that down below. What are some players that you think could end up on the trade block for the Chicago Bears as the trade deadline is less than 2 weeks away? And what are some targets you think the Bears could go after if they do want to acquire players at this trade deadline? Let me know all that down below. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the channel at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.